comparison, modernity of tradition, Rudolph and Rudolph, and critiques of modernistic UPSC sociology notes. 1. Introduction to modernization. Modernization is a total transformation of a society from a traditional agrarian state to a modern, industrial, and urban state. It is not just about using new machines, it is a change in thinking, values, and living lifestyle. Core definition. It is the process where a society moves away from superstition and birth-based status toward rationality, logic, science, and achievement, merit. The shift from traditional authority, kings, priests, right arrow to legal rational authority, constitution, laws. From ascription, who you are born as, right arrow to achievement, what you do. Key idea. It involves industrialization, urbanization, secularization, and the rise of the individual. Mains value add, keywords, start your answer by mentioning evolutionary versus directed modernization. Evolutionary happened in the West, UK, USA, slowly over centuries. Directed happening in India, forced, guided by the state and constitution quickly. 2. Key thinkers on modernization. Thinker. Key concept, book. What they said about modernization. Max Weber. Rationalization. Modernization is the replacement of mystical traditions with calculation and efficiency. He called this the iron cage of rationality. Daniel Lerner. The passing of traditional society. Key feature is empathy, mobile personality. A modern person can imagine themselves in another person's situation, e.g., if I were the Prime Minister. Talcott Parsons. Pattern variables. Modernization is a shift in variables. 3. Particularism, right arrow universalism, rules for everyone. 4. Ascription, right arrow achievement, status by work. 5. Diffuseness, right arrow specificity, clear roles, Walt Rostow. Stages of economic growth. Every society passes through 5 stages, ending in high mass consumption. He viewed modernization as a linear economic path. S.N. Eisenstadt. Multiple modernities. Modernization is not just westernization. Different cultures modernize in different ways, e.g., Japanese modernity versus Indian modernity. 6. Characteristics of modernization. Industrialization, use of machines and fossil fuels for mass production. Urbanization, growth of cities and urban lifestyles. Rationalization, logic and efficiency guide decisions. Secularization, separation of church, religion, and state. Democratization, political power resides with the people. Differentiation, specialized institutions for specific tasks, schools for teaching, hospitals for healing. Mobility, high physical, migration, and social, status change, mobility. Literacy and mass media, high rates of literacy and exposure to news. Money economy, shift from barter system to cash, digital economy. Bureaucratization, administration based on written rules. 7. The interplay, modernization and globalization. Modernization acts as the internal engine that allows a country to participate in globalization, the external network. Technological bridge. Modernization builds the necessary infrastructure, broadband, satellites, shipping ports, without which a country cannot connect to the global market. Standardization. Modernization forces countries to adopt standard systems, banking Swift codes, English language, Gregorian calendar. This sameness allows globalization to flow smoothly. Market readiness. A modernized society shifts from subsistence farming to industrial manufacturing. This creates surplus goods that drive global trade. Cultural compatibility. Modern values like consumerism and individualism make people desire global brands, Nike, Apple, fueling the global economy. Migration. Modern education creates skilled professionals, doctors, engineers, who then migrate, creating a global workforce. Brain drain, brain gain. 8. Effect on Indian social institutions. A. Institution of caste. From ritual to secular, caste is no longer about purity and pollution, who you can touch, it is now about power and politics, who you vote for. Caste associations. Castes have modernized into pressure groups, unions to demand reservations, e.g., Jats, Marathas. Interdining. Restrictions on eating together have vanished in modern spaces like canteens and trains. B. Institution of family. Structural change. Shift from large joint families to nuclear families due to migration and lack of space in cities. Loss of function. Family is no longer the unit of production. Work happens in factories, offices. It remains a unit of consumption and emotional support. Authority. The absolute power of the patriarch, eldest male, has declined. Women and youth have more voice. C. Institution of marriage. Nature of bond. Marriage is moving from a religious sacrament, irrevocable, to a civil contract, can be dissolved via divorce. Mate selection, shift from parent arranged to self choice, love marriages, or joint choice, parents plus child consent. Widening scope, rise in intercaste and interreligion marriages due to co-education and workplace interaction. D. Institution of religion. Privatization. Religion is retreating to the private sphere. It dictates personal faith but not public law, secularism. Commercialization. Rise of God-men and religious tourism managed like modern corporate events. 9. Other impacts of modernization. A. Political impact. Democracy. Power is held by elected representatives, not kings. Universal adult franchise. Every adult has the right to vote regardless of caste or gender. Rule of law. The law applies equally to everyone. No one is above it. Bureaucracy. Administration is run by trained officials following written rules. Max Weber. Citizenship. People are no longer subjects of a ruler but citizens with rights. Welfare state. The government takes responsibility for health, education, and development. Political participation. Common people participate in politics through protests, strikes, and voting. Decentralization. Power is shared with local levels, Panchayati Raj. Rise of civil society. NGOs and media act as watchdogs of democracy. Ideological politics. Politics based on ideas, socialism, capitalism, rather than just religion. B. Cultural impact. Rationality. Scientific thinking replaces superstition, logic, magic. Individualism. The individual is more important than the community or clan. Consumerism. Identity is expressed through what people buy, status symbols. Future orientation. People plan for the future rather than living in the past. Universal education. Education is for everyone, not just the elite, priestly class. Gender equality. Changing cultural views on women's roles. Decline of rituals. Elaborate traditional rituals are shortened to save time. Westernization. Adopting Western clothes and language, often alongside modernization. Cosmopolitanism. Acceptance of diverse cultures and global outlook. Disenchantment. The world feels less magical and more predictable, scientific. Weber. 10. Social constraints in modernization, barriers, caste system. Deeply rooted caste bias prevents true meritocracy. Illiteracy. Lack of education prevents people from adopting modern skills. Poverty. Poor people cannot afford the tools of modernity. Religious fundamentalism. Resistance to modern values by religious groups. Patriarchy. Men refusing to give women equal freedom or rights. Traditional elites. Landlords resisting democracy to keep power. Superstition. Belief in magic hinders scientific progress. Corruption. Use of public office for personal gain, nepotism. Lack of infrastructure. Poor roads, electricity slow down industry. Cultural lag. Technology changes fast, values change slow. W.F. Ogburn. Main's value add concept. Use Gunnar Myrdal's concept of the soft state. He argued India is a soft state where modern laws exist, but the government is too weak or corrupt to enforce them strictly, slowing down modernization. 11. Changes in contemporary Indian society. Adaptive caste. Caste acts as a political pressure group, vote banks. Feminization of agriculture. Men move to cities, women run farms. Digital divide. Gap between internet haves and have-nots. McDonaldization of food. Fast food replacing traditional diets. Sanskritization versus westernization. Lower castes copy upper castes copy the West. Fluid family structures. Rise of living in relationships in metros. Service sector boom. India jumped from agriculture to IT, skipping manufacturing. Globalization. Global brands adapting to local tastes. Makalu Tikki. Religious revivalism. Using TV, internet to promote gurus and religion. Migration chains. Villages migrating to specific global cities. 12. Specific Indian thinkers on modernization. A. Yogendra Singh. Modernization of Indian tradition. Core view. Modernization in India is not destroying tradition. Instead, tradition is modernizing. Concept. He rejects the idea that tradition and modernity are opposites. Quote, the form may remain traditional, but the substance becomes modern. Example. Caste is a traditional structure, but today it functions like a modern trade union, fighting for rights, reservations. B. Dipankar Gupta, mistaken modernity, core view, India is mistakenly modern. Concept. We confuse consumerism with modernism. Argument. Just because we have cars and computers doesn't mean we are modern. True modernity requires universalism, treating every human with equal dignity. Critique. He calls the Indian elite Westoxicated, superficially Western but feudal in mindset, e.g., educated doctors demanding dowry. 13. Conclusion. Modernization is not a straight line from old to new. In India, it is a complex mix. Summary. India has achieved structural modernization, laws, industry, cities, but struggles with cultural modernization, caste, gender bias. Final assessment. As Yogendra Singh concludes, Indian society is resilient. It does not simply copy the West, it absorbs modernity and adapts it to fit its own cultural roots. Future outlook. The challenge for India is to move beyond mistaken modernity, Dipankar Gupta, and achieve true substantive equality and scientific temper. New exam relevant additions, essential for mains, these topics are often asked as comparisons or specific critiques in the exam. 14. Difference between Westernization and Modernization, M.N. Srinivas, feature. Westernization. Modernization. Focus. Imitating the British West in clothes, food, and manners. Adopting rational, scientific, and democratic values. Scope. Narrow. Refers specifically to the colonial impact on India. Broad. A global process happening everywhere. Values. Can be superficial, e.g., drinking wine, wearing suits. Deep structural change, e.g., equality, logic, merit. Relation. You can be westernized without being modern, e.g., a suit-wearing man who hates lower castes. You can be modern without being westernized, e.g., a Gandhi-like figure who wears khadi but believes in secularism and truth. 15. The modernity of tradition, Rudolph and Rudolph, concept. They challenge the idea that tradition and modernity are enemies. Argument. In India, traditional structures perform modern functions. Example 1. Caste. It is a traditional structure, but it teaches people how to run a democracy through voting blocks. Example 2. Joint family. It is traditional, but it provides the capital, money, for modern entrepreneurship. Conclusion. Tradition is not a hurdle. It is a resource for modernization in India. 16. Critiques of modernization theory. For a balanced answer, if the question asks you to critically analyze, use these points. Ethnocentric. It assumes the Western model, USA, Europe, is the only way to be modern. Environmental cost. It ignores that industrial modernization destroys the environment, climate change. Loss of community. It creates loneliness and mental health issues, Durkheim's anomie. Inequality. It often makes the rich richer and the poor poorer in the initial stages.